I've been realizing that I haven't been swearing much at the tops of my videos, and I normally post the first 30 seconds uncensored onto my Patreon. So for the Patreon users, there you go. A couple weeks ago, I made a video. It was this one right here, and it was talking about content theft and how it's become completely normalized in the fucking TikTok era. I'm very happy with how it's been received. It definitely started the dialogue that I wanted to. I've heard a bunch of interesting perspectives, but then someone asked for my opinion on music sampling, like when you take one piece of audio from its intended context and put it into something else. I have gathered somewhere between 10 to 20, I'm too lazy to count, examples of sampling. And they're all examples that I think show that sampling of music could be a very powerful tool if you use it correctly. It is mostly like EDM and like some drum and bass stuff, because of course it fucking is, but I did try and pull from a couple other genres. I even got a couple other people's recommendations. Also, these are in absolutely no order whatsoever, lol.
Clinic, I couldn't be alone because without you.
When I started researching for this video a couple weeks ago, I didn't think that I would be telling you that a mid-2000s R&B song and a song from the Metal Gear Solid franchise would team up to make the greatest example of sampling ever made. Burial Archangel is god tier. No pun intended, I don't think. Wait, what does Archangel mean? The second lowest rank of angel in the Christian hierarchy of gods. Okay, cool. That was kind of a pun. Honestly, the entire Untrue album is a masterclass in the art of sampling, but this one in particular has always just hit me so well. It takes the lighthearted poppiness of the R&B era from the 2000s, and it takes these dramatic swelling strings from Metal Gear Solid 2, released whenever the fuck it released. And I normally say that he just smushed them together, but I don't think that fairly articulates just how well put together the song is. The way that the strings and the vocals end up harmonizing, and the way that he uses pitch shifting to create whole new different melody lines with the vocals, it creates something genuinely haunting. It's like a dying mechanism longing for a lost love and trying to accentuate its feelings using the lyrics from a 2005 R&B beat. Absolutely S-tier ranking, and if you want a dope-ass album to show you how sampling is done, I could not recommend Untrue more. Oneohtrix Point Never is fine, I guess. He has a couple songs I like. Most of them are kind of just meh to me, but there is one track in particular of his that I think is pretty good. It starts off with a simple guitar and then goes into a sort of muffled, vocoded sample that is prevalent across the entire album that this is from. And after some more vocal effects, some more guitar, we are immediately shoved into this super harsh bass line. As the vocals keep going, the intensity ramps the fuck up. You feel like you're being whipped from the ground right up to the heavens. A small chorus begins to surround you as you go further and further, and all of a sudden everything goes back into static, and you're brought right back down to earth with the guitar there, and you're kind of just left sitting there being like, what the fuck just happened to me? And the guitar itself already gives you that vibe, because it's very mysterious, kind of something is, you know, about to happen, neato kind of vibe. And then Oneohtrix Point Never just fucking sends that shit. And that's what I think is a great example of a sample. Oneohtrix Point Never heard that guitar sample, knew something was there, and then took it to brand new heights. I'm not getting too passionate about this. You are. Go away. Fuck you.
But do we appreciate it, all us little babies? No. We cry, 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 cry. And over and over and over and over.
Okay, Clay, I get the
No,
Silver Sled is one of my top listened to artists of all time, because I'd never go outside. And a lot of people can agree that one of their best songs is Sacrifice. It's, I don't know, Sacrifice backwards. Fuck you. It takes a sample from this bar rant from the show Moral Oral, and it does it, I'd argue, like a god tier level. The instrumental itself is already so dark, and then you add that rant on top of it, and it feels like it's just deconstructing the entire existence of your life. And then right near the end of the rant part, when the sample cuts off, and you're just immediately thrown to the wolves in this wall of sound with these fast-paced drums and the bass just crushing your skull, it really just feels like the musical interpretation of what the fuck he's talking about. Life is a race, you are not keeping up, you're gonna die alone. So I say it's a good example of sampling. I'd say it's a great example. Should we make this a tier list, actually? New topic, sampling and music, tier list, everything goes in shit tier, fuck you.
What the fuck is wrong with you? You fucking animal, you piece of shit little tiny bitch.
Ready or Not is a 2019 black comedy horror with Samara Weaving screaming her fucking guts out. I haven't actually seen the movie. I didn't actually know about it till I started trying to find where the sample was from. But when you hear Samara screaming in this movie, it is simultaneously the most harrowing thing and the funniest shit. You fucking animal, you piece of shit motherfucker. Obviously watching that from the movie clips that I found on YouTube doesn't really make me feel a lot. However, it's used brilliantly in this track. For those who haven't heard the original song, the bit that's sampled here doesn't actually show up until like the very end of the track, and we have about 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes-ish for build-up. And the whole build-up is just talking about mental health, and just, it really does come down to not giving a fuck about yourself or your own safety, let alone anything about the world around you. It really sounds like someone coming to the end of their rope in the most manic way possible, and I couldn't think of a better way to summarize that whole feeling than having this chaotic monstrosity of a beat slap you in the face while Samara Weaving is just screaming at you. It really is the epitome of that meme that's like, aren't you tired of being normal? Don't you just want to go ape shit? I'd probably put that in A tier, or whatever the equivalent of A tier is in whatever I'm doing.
I love you. I love you.
For those of you who don't know, I'm a big Boards of Canada fan. These two albums are actually the reason that my name is literally what it is. And Boards of Canada is also no stranger to sampling. They don't go quite as insane with it as they do with Burial, but it's there. And I chose this particular sample because I think this is the one that stuck out most with me when I first heard their debut album. The Color of the Fire is about 1.5 minute long ambient track that sounds very pretty, and then they decide to put this Sesame Seed sample over it, and it made it into something from my nightmares. The original sample is literally just a kid like learning how to write I love you, and it's cute or whatever. But then in The Color of the Fire, they pitch it down slightly and they stretch it out so it has like some computer generated artifacting, and it turns into like what I think a robot would try to say when it's trying to understand the concept of love. And because of that, the whole track just feels uncomfortable. Overall, it's already a delightfully dark track, and this vocal sample really just takes it to another fucking level. I'm thinking either S or A tier. I'll decide later.
Keep your head up, keep your heart strong, keep your mind set, keep your head low.
I've been listening to Uppermost for over a decade, and I can safely confirm that he is one of the best in the sampling game. His 2012 mixtape Control is littered with a bunch of samples that I think are great, but this particular track has always stuck with me. And when I looked up where the sample was from, I think I laughed out loud because I could not have predicted. The original song sounds like a very positive, upbeat, like country pop anthem, right? And then you put it into this like very dark and distorted context. They're both very different vibes. One of the songs makes you feel like a god that can just go out and grab the world by the balls and crush 1,000 stacks of hay bales with your fist. And the other one just makes you feel so calm, cool, and collected, and like you just want to get a little bit stoned even if you haven't smoked in 6 years. Just me, I don't know. I'd honestly put this up into the fucking S tier category. Clipping is my latest hyperfixation. They mainly do rap music, and a lot of the instrumentals they use, especially their earlier stuff, is a lot of power electronics, a lot of very noisy shit, but occasionally they will use samples, and in this case here, they use one beautifully. The track is called Enlacing, and the song samples Infinite Bodies track of the same name. Why am I talking so seriously now? Do I think I'm Anthony Fantano or some shit? It takes this very heavenly sounding track that is just filled with very dreamy, harmonized vocal chops, and the whole thing just feels like you're rapidly ascending to heaven. And then Clippings Enlacing sounds like you're nosediving into hell. When I first heard it, it genuinely sounded like you're having a mental breakdown in the middle of a club. The drums and shit are all entirely disjointed. Sonically, it is just all over the place, but there is a constant through line of this voice sample just saying that it's enlacing over and over again, and does a really good job of capturing the bitch, you're gonna die, but you know, you're at peace with it, so dance your ass off in the club, king. Kentenchi Paranoid is fine. It's a good track, and the sample I feel like fits into it pretty nicely. I do think it is very interesting to put this like lighthearted Vocaloid pop song into a super breakcore intense kind of context. It do definitely be a vibe, and I kind of prefer listening to it than the high-pitched Vocaloid. Controversial opinion, I'm not a big fan of Vocaloids. I think it kind of works in the context of something like Porter Robinson's Worlds, where the entire point of the Vocaloid voices are meant to sound kind of futuristic or otherworldly and shit like that. You know, that kind of stuff I think is cool. But Vocaloid isn't sampling, and I'm going on a total fucking tangent like I always do. Next!
A person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thought.
We confuse science with the real world.
Overthinker is, I don't know if it's everyone's favorite song, but it's in like everyone's top 10. In this day and age, using Alan Watts samples in your EDM track is about as cliche as having an old woman in your horror movie who knows everything. Everyone does it whether or not it actually adds to the source material, and it just gets tired very quickly. However, I think Overthinker actually picks a really good quote and actually handles it surprisingly well. Probably my favorite part of the track is when it goes,
reality is
right there. That's fucking badass, dude. What the fuck? The lead up to that small portion of the song that I played, so I don't get absolutely railed by copyright, hopefully. He's describing how reality can't be described with words. So when he says reality is, and then it just punches you in the dick with a wall of sound, like, this is reality, motherfucker. You experiencing this shit. You being here in this moment surrounded by 1,000 other sweaty people at the rave. That's what reality is. I don't know what tier I'm gonna put this in. I just decided to do a tier list 10 minutes ago. Maybe I'll put it in the green screen back there. That'd be cool.
I think about you, what can I do?
Agon OST is another artist I simp for. For this particular release, they took a sample from the song Tell Me by Bear Bear and Friends. Awesome fucking name, by the way. I like that. And I feel like it builds upon the vibe that they were going for in the song, because the original song has a very like lightish and poppy feel to it. And Light Stops Jumping Through the Stars has it's very like heavy and ethereal. That is 2 words. Agon OST is god tier at doing vocal chops with the stuff that they sample, but the 2 standout lines throughout Light Stops Jumping Through the Stars are I think about you and be with you again. And those by themselves tell a story. Now what the story is, I don't really know, but I feel it on a primal level. Pretty good sample, I'd say, put that in A tier. Cool. Slowdive is one of the biggest shoegaze bands in the world that I didn't know existed until I'd started researching for this video. This is also the only song that I've heard from them so far, but it is very dreamy. It definitely is one of the tracks where if you're listening to it at like too high of a volume, you would actually just get so calm and lethargic to the point where you would probably forget that you're driving an 18-wheeler. So to hear it be put into a far more intense track is a little bit funny. I think it works really well. I just love the fact that this vocal track is initially just so calm and puts you in a state of ease, and then Carmen just says fuck that shit. It is still very calm in the grand scheme of things, but there is no denying that the pulsing kick is just punching you in the face repeatedly. Combine that with the entire album's really dark PS1 sound, and you have this sample flipped in a very interesting way that I feel like doesn't build upon the original sample, but it transforms it. It puts it in a brand new context, which is a way that I think sampling does good well is.
Show me how you care.
Transparency, my love language. Can't see the bigger picture if your vision tainted.
This one was another recommendation, and I think I have fallen in love with both artists. The Men I Trust original is a delightfully beautiful, simple little sample. They got like the woman singing, show me how you can. And then Joey Badass puts that into his own rap song, and I think it's fucking brilliant. The original song sounds so wistful and yet longing to connecting with the love, and it has like a little bit of a bittersweet vibe. And then Joey Badass Show Me is also a very bittersweet love song. The whole time he's rapping about wanting to have a real connection and how it's difficult to do now that he's made it, and how he wishes that, he didn't have these layers of fame that kind of prevented him from people showing them how they really feel, showing them who they are, so that he can feel a personal connection again. At least I think so. I listened to the song once. Maybe I'm totally wrong. This is another example of good sampling in my mind. The original sample offers one perspective in terms of love and how the fuck that shit works, and then the other one makes another thing with the source material and offers their perspective on how fucking shit works. So that one's good. I'll probably put it in A tier. It makes sense.
Can't compete with this pillow talk of mine.
One of the genres of music that samples the most is Vaporwave, which obviously it's meant to be reminiscent of a lust for the 80s that no one who was alive in the 80s understands. They got very popular with the age group like mine who romanticized the 80s but wouldn't fucking want to live in it. Some of the fashion and the neon lights were cool, but I prefer having basic human rights and not getting AIDS. All that to say, it is still a very alluring genre to this day, and I think one of the best examples is Private Caller by Saint Pepsi. The entire song is built around the sample from this one song called Lust by Pillow Talk. No, other way around. I'm so smart. It came out in 1983. It was upbeat. It was a little bit poppy. It was kind of overstimulating at times. But what Saint Pepsi did is he proceeded to just pitch it down and compress the fuck out of it, and he unlocked something. Shit sounds like something you would hear in a dream if you're high on pain meds. I don't know, the original version kind of sounded a little bit too hollow for my taste, but Private Caller really just tightens down the whole thing into one nice concoction. Now, on the other hand, I am still very passionate about people getting the credit for stuff that they make, and considering the fact that this song is definitely more the original sample than it's not, Private Caller is a great track. I just kind of wish that St. Pepsi did a little bit more with it. But I definitely do think that it accomplished the goal that St. Pepsi set out to do, and it actually does music as Skylar Spence now. That's really good.
Sometimes the inner voice is encouraging, calling for you to run those final few yards. You're nearly there. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. It will all be okay in the end.
I'm pretty sure you can tell by looking at me for more than half a second that I'm a simp for Porter Robinson. And Mirror is an insanely powerful track. It's actually the inverse of the Katamari track we talked about earlier, because this one's like, no, you should give a shit about yourself. You're a cool dude. You're a nice little cookie, and I'm gonna eat. No. And at the very end of this track, the instrumental drops completely, and we are left with just a lone voice telling us that it's gonna be worth it in the end. You just gotta keep going and, trust your inner voice. If your inner voice is nice. If it's not, it can suck a dick. I think Porter used it brilliantly here, because it is taking this self-help instructional type thing video, taking a quote that he really liked from it, that meant a lot to him, and then putting it into this thing that he made with the knowledge that he was able to do it so that he could share it with everyone else. In conclusion, Porter Robinson is a genius. Stream Knock Yourself Out XD. Thanks.
Oh, Lord, what a night, what a night, what a Saturday night. Lord, what a night, what a night, what a Saturday night.
The song Untitled is the last song off of Eden's 2020 album No Future, an album that absolutely everybody loved and no one can tell me otherwise. At the very end of the song, when he's done singing the very last words you hear on the album itself, the sample comes in of a bunch of Jamaican school children on some kind of field trip or some shit, I don't know, and they're doing one of their nursery rhyme things, and it's cute. It's cute. What Eden does is he takes the raw voice and he puts it over top of the guitar melody that he had been playing for a large part of the song. And the result goes from something that's mildly cute to watch if you actually like children to, maybe I shouldn't say it like that, to something. It's a little bit hard to put into words, but it definitely gives me the vibe of this is it. It is over. There is peace now. I'm not entirely sure what emotion it was actually intended to cause, but I felt like it was a good way to close out now. Once again, no script. I already said this at the beginning. If you're coming here looking for an intellectual experience, you are sorely misguided. Well, those are all the songs I had listed. Thank you guys so much for watching. I just noticed my fan has been on for this whole video, so hopefully the sound isn't too shit. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me ramble. I do enjoy music a lot of the time. I actually used to write some myself. And I think it's a very interesting topic to cover, considering how I spent the last video talking about content theft, just shitting on a bunch of people taking shit verbatim. And I feel like sampling is a good example of when it's not verbatim, when you're actually adding something to what you're making. You're adding some flavor that actually makes people want to go to your thing instead of the other person's thing. And that's what good sampling should do. It shouldn't just be a yes, it should be a yes and. Like, here's the thing with a similar vibe, yes and here's my interpretation, or here's my take on it. If that makes sense. I don't know what's real. None of this is real. I don't normally ask for comments at the ends of videos because I don't want it to seem like I'm trying to farm the algorithm out of every single last view it can possibly give me. But in this case, I do want to read your comments and see if you have any examples of samples that you like in music, because I find the transformative nature of them fascinating, and I am genuinely curious to hear people's thoughts about it. Shout out to all the people beside my head right now: Gordon, Hakai Mono, Foxy Boy, Kylecray95, Fox Named Ari, Alleycat VR, Jargy Roo, Theo Firefox, Serial Source, and Matt Kalos. All these people give me their money for some reason. Also, if we get 1,000 subscribers before June ends, I'll eat a walnut.